What's up, everybody? How is everyone doing today? Oh yeah, my camera's fucked. There was a reason for it yesterday. Now, I don't know what the fuck I want to do, to be completely frank. Um, we could watch and comment on shit. We could do whatever, but really, I don't really know what to do at this point. Um, I have plans, but those have kind of fallen through a few times. Um, I don't know what to play today. That's the biggest problem. If you have any suggestions, pop them in the chat. I'll gladly take them. We can do anything from playing a video game that you want to see played uh to just chilling and chatting. But the problem is, I don't really have a topic to talk about. I mean, we can talk about current news. We can talk about all of that, but what do I want to talk about is the real question. So, I figure I shoot for an hour and just bullshit about stuff. Um, the mountain bike industry's been pretty shit. We lost JT. Uh, we lost Gorilla Gravity. We've lost a lot. Let me look at all the bike companies that we lost. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing, though. I mean, it could be a bad thing, it could be a great thing. Gorilla Gravity, let me refine that search a little bit. Chain Reactions closing. Chain Reactions have a nuke proof. I think died, right? Or is getting there. Vitus is getting there. Uh, it looks like everybody's having a hard or it looks like everybody's having a hard time. Um, and there's a reason. It's because everybody picked up cycling as a hobby during COVID to get the fuck out of the house, and they had the money to spend on it, so they did. So they ramped up production, but forgot that a lot of that stuff's gonna go away, and the market's gonna get fucked. Um, there's really no real innovation the past few years, past like a while. Since what? The dropper post, really? When did 27.5 come out? So that came out in what, 2000? It wasn't popular until 2003, um, or 2013. 29er was a big, not really huge, but like a big innovation, bigger innovation. Dropper Post was a huge innovation. Innovation that was probably the last good one. Now we're just iterating stuff, and it's just kind of shit now. Like as far as like innovation, carbon fiber, they've done more with that, and aluminum and steel. People are learning how to work with different materials better to make bikes and things like that. But really, nothing's going on in the bike. With all the money that companies got in 2020 and 2021, you'd think they would have put it to more R&D, but I guess they just didn't. I mean, really, the only thing worth talking about in the past, I don't know, 5 years is probably the electronics going up in the bikes, like e-bikes, obviously. What I mean by going up in the bikes, I mean like regular mountain bikes, like shifters and all that stuff, shifters, dropper posts, lever. Shifters, dropper post levers, they've all become electric. Even suspension's becoming electric with auto tuning and things like that. Active ride tuning. Um, Things of that nature, but it seems like there's not much to innovate. I mean, there might be. Uh, Really, the only thing that would be innovative in mountain biking right now is bringing the cost down. It's getting too pricey again. It was too pricey before, but it's. I have a feeling it's going to get up even higher and worse. So mountain biking's kind of dying for a couple of reasons. One, there was a boost because of COVID. Everybody thinks it's dying because of COVID. It's really not dying. I'm going to be honest with you. Mountain biking itself is not dying. The companies who didn't adjust well are. Instead of taking that money and putting it towards more product, what they did, or instead of taking what they should have done is boost uh, their numbers a little bit, just a little bit, like a couple more than average the average year, the next year. That way, they didn't lose out on a shit ton of money, and then put more of it into R&D. Um, I know people were complaining about not being able to find bikes, but like the reality is, you're just gonna set yourself up for failure if you're gonna make a next production year. 100. Let's say they sold. Let's say they sold like 50,000 bikes, but in COVID during the COVID time frame, they sold. For 2 years they sold 50,000 bikes. I'm just speaking specifically mountain bikes, not every bike. Obviously, most of these companies make other bikes too. Um, but it seems like that they didn't adjust for upcoming sale or the decline in sales. They boosted up their inventory instead of putting it towards R&D and making a better product. Now there isn't much you can refine on a mountain bike anymore. It's getting close to the point of. I mean, I'm sure there's something there that we don't see. There'll be some element that's just crazy that we don't see. But I mean, we're at the point now to where most of your average bikes, on this, not prototype stuff that racers or you know, manufacturer uh, teams have, things like that. It's mostly just going to be small little things. Conveniences are going to be a big thing in mountain bikes. Trek already kind of caught onto that with their interior storage and their bottom tube. Um, there's going to be a lot of it, but not much going on in that area besides hoping and praying everybody doesn't die in the process. We already lost GT bikes. We already lost Gorilla Gravity. Chain Reaction Cycles is going through it. Nuke Proof's going through it. Vitus is going through it. Uh, the companies that'll win out are going to be the big ones, and the ones who had money in the bank to begin with. They don't have to worry. And they can discount their bikes enough to where it's not going to kill them. It's just going to pay for the parts and the materials and the parts and the labor that was made to put it together. That's about it. Not that these are huge manufacturers. I mean, JT was for a long time, but they haven't been the biggest manufacturer in bikes in a long time. A big manufacturer in bikes in a long time. They got really big during the 2000 late 90s, early 2000s BMX craze, extreme sports craze, which was mostly BMX, skateboarding, aggressive inline. Not so much mountain biking and stuff like that, but they've had a mountain biking line. Haro was a big name. I don't even know what the fuck they're doing. I don't even know if they're still around. And I'm not even saying from COVID, just in general. Are they still around? Let's look. Excuse me. I just burping for no reason as I spell shit wrong. Are they just focusing on BMX? What kind of bikes they got? They got mountain bikes. That's interesting. Let's check them out. They're really pricey though. Kind of expected from Haru. They were always kind of the higher end brand. They're all alloy. I don't even see a carbon frame here. That's an interesting way to go. Actually, I find it a good way to go, personally. But they're anywhere between 3,000 to actually 2,000 to about 6,000 when it's all said and done. We can look at their cheapest one real quick. $2,000. What is this? A cross country bike? What's this made for? Nah, it seems like a high. Doesn't look bad actually. This is a high travel trail bike using Marzocchi stuff for suspension, which means it's not bad. It's a 29er. Is that SRAM? I can't really tell. Can I zoom in on this picture? Yeah, I can. Okay. FSA. I don't know this drivetrain. At least the cranks. I don't know the cranks. Never heard of the company. It might be a company I just don't know about. That's normal for me. Crankset is what's the chain? Bottom bracket, FSA. I mean, I know. Okay, so Shimano. Shimano Qs. They went for a cheaper option with a 48 tooth in the rear at first. 10 speed. That makes a little bit more sense. I'm just looking at the... now we can go to their big bike. Their big boy bajillion dollar bike. We'll look at that real quick. Which aren't in stock at all. What is this? 160 travel. So it's an enduro. Is that front or rear or both? Oh, it doesn't tell me what the rear suspension is. Does it? It might say somewhere. It's 170 in the front, 160 in the rear. So yeah, it's a normal enduro bike. Fox Float, 38 Performance Elite, and Flax Float X2 Performance Elite for the rear shock. SRAM Axis all the way around. Which I'm assuming includes the dropper post. No, it looks like a regular dropper post. That's weird. Why would you do SRAM Axis but not the dropper post? It's kind of weird. What kind of dropper post is that? Let me look this up. I just want to know what it is, to be completely frank. To KS. I don't think they have no, it's manual. That's weird. They went to electronic for SRAM, but not the dropper post. Interesting. So actually, I mean, that alone by itself kind of proves a big problem point in mountain biking. The setups are bad. Like you're gonna spend $5,700 on a bike, and you're gonna make one thing electric, but not the dropper post. You might as well just make both. Just slap a fucking RockShox dropper post on there. You should have shot. I don't know if Rock. Shit, dude. At that price point, what is Fox's? Doesn't Fox have an electronic system? They had one. I don't know if it's still around. Yeah, Live Valve. That's what it is. I think they have it for mountain bikes too, right? We'll just do bike. See if they have a Live valve. I know they got the transfer tube Neo, which they probably should have did. It's a dropper post, it's a wireless dropper post. I know they have that. They were doing electronic stuff too, but I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that, because I do want to try these systems too. I don't want bestseller. I want like a shock or a fork with live valve in it. I know what the transfer tube Neo is. Let's do parts and accessories. Maybe it's in that area. What is this? Neo kit with live valve. That's battery. I don't see shocks with live valve or anything. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Let's look up forks, see if any of them had the live valve in it. You know, we'll just go into their store and look. Shop all forks. Is it damper chassis? No. Rake, no. Travel, no. Series? No. Color, wheel size, damper, model. What if I just sorted it by price? Can I do that? Descending. I want the highest. Fox Factory 38. Yeah, I don't see anything with live valve available. I want to know how that works. I mean, that's where we're going, really, in mountain biking. That's it, you know. Live valve Neo. Neo. Is that what it's called? Okay. Is it available in... because it's new. Yeah, we'll do ridefox.com and see what they have to say. Here's an Aircan one. It's a Fox Float X Live Valve Neo. It's got a metric trunnion. Bunch of different sizes. Do they have a... Is this all going to be air-based? Because if it is, I'm going to be kind of mad. So they got a shock, but I don't see, like, a fork. You know what I mean? Oh, they got two shocks. They got a spring shock. At least prototyped. But I don't see a fork. Yeah, it looks like it's just shocks and rear shocks and dropper post. Or there might just be a sensor for it. They don't really need to have a... Yeah, but how do you adjust that, right? Let's go back and type in fork. Fox Live Valve Neo system is designed primarily for mountain bike rear shock. Does not currently include a fork compared. That means Live Valve Neo is not available for use with mountain bike fork. That's where they're fucking up at. They need to figure that out. I mean, that's the only thing I got for mountain biking at the moment. I mean, it's interesting tech. Rock Shocks and SRAM have this on lock. They need to. Fox needs to come out and start swinging with a fork. I'm glad they did a rear shock. I'm glad they did a front. I'm glad they did a C post. But now that I'm thinking about it, we should probably be thinking more long term than just like what we're fighting right now. You know, with the mountain bike stuff. Right now, we're just fighting. Mountain biking is just fighting one simple thing. People got tired of it because everybody was allowed to go back to being normal. So a lot of people who started mountain biking and even cycling stopped doing it and started doing the stuff that they used to do before COVID. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing, but it is what it is. They're just freaking out because they spent a bunch of money. My suggestion is stop making new bikes for the next couple years. Sell the ones you got. Fix the issue. You don't need a new bike every year. There's very little in marginal gains for that. You're not going to get much gains out of that. Really, the only thing that could change the game right now, which they do exist, because I actually do like these e-bikes. There's an e-bike company out there that has a motor that's both throttled and pedal assist. It has a two drive system for that reason. It's a mid-drive bike. What else is there? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that we can talk about, especially with mountain biking. There's a lot of things that are a problem in mountain biking. Most of it is just the influx of people that came in and they're leaving because of COVID. That's really the biggest problem for the companies. For us, it's for normal mountain bikes, people who mountain bike before COVID and didn't stop and kept doing, people who mountain bike all regularly. They need to be worried because there's going to be a lot less business around mountain biking now. YouTubers need to be worried because there's going to be a lot less business around mountain biking now because we lost companies. Reviews are kind of dumb on stuff. You won't ever really understand it until you start using it. I mean, saying it's a decent product, it does what it's supposed to do, is probably the best you'll ever get out of me for a review. Like, for instance, I'll give you a review of Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, Sword and Shield, Pearl, I guess Pearl and Diamond, even though I haven't played Pearl, but it's the same game for the most part, and Arceus Legends. Scarlet and Violet sucked, but it did push it towards an open world feeling, or open world design, which is a good thing. The bad thing is that the performance sucked because, well, that's partially Nintendo and partially Game Freak's fault. Same goes with Arceus Legends. That game was great until you had to chase Pokemon, or do the do the quelling of the frenzy to legendary Pokemon. The input for that game is too slow. It needs work on that end. You can't have pretty much a live action RPG Pokemon and have the button configurations be slow. Sorry for the dog barking. Yeah, mountain biking right now. Really, really what you're going to be doing is if you're a mountain biker, is focusing on your ride that you're currently riding and maybe buying a new one if you need a new one to progress or to get into a different part of mountain biking or whatever. But what I would probably do, which is what I'm going to be doing, which I'm kind of already doing, is just progressing myself with what I have and progressing the bike that I have. Might get a new one at some point in time, looking to get a full suspension. But with the truck throwing Christmas out the door this year and fucking up all the plans that I had, it's been pretty rough. Now I'm going to try to jump back on that as soon as possible. But it's still been pretty rough. It's an expense that I probably should have had saved up for, but beforehand, but it is what it is now. It is what it is now. So um but here's the real kicker, right? Um if I was a mountain biker in today's world, your best bet is to keep what you got. Do not finance anything. But definitely keep what you have and refine that bike enough to where it's just a completely different bike for all the right reasons. Um, Obviously, if there's frame damage or something, there's nothing you can do, like when you're riding or whatever. There's nothing you can do about that. But you could, buy frame protection. Make sure that's good. Uh, Buy better wheels, better drivetrain system, better brakes. Refine the bike to not only suit your needs, but the needs of what you plan on doing in the future. Like, I'll give you a prime for example. Let's say you ride a hardtail, right? You have everything that you could possibly put on a hardtail, but you haven't upgraded anything. It's just what it came with, right? Are they the best components? Maybe. Depends on the hardtail. You can spend a lot of money on a hardtail. But the current frame you got, I would probably stick with for a long time. And you better stick with your wheel set size for now. If you want to get a bigger wheel size, go get that and then progress. Go get that at a cheaper. My suggestion is always to buy the cheapest model of whatever bike you want. And the reason is because you can refine it to your needs and the needs that could potentially come in the future. Now, the best way to go about this is to either be comfortable with what you're riding now, B, try to have an all around bike and not a specialized bike. Because your attitudes could change in the next few years. Who knows what happens, right? Hardtail's a great place to start. You should probably get one that has the current boost standard. Was it 148? Yeah. You should probably get one of those. If you don't have one, that's fine. There's plenty of stuff that still supports you that can be pretty extreme, but you're not going to be able to do the crazy extreme stuff you can do with a. It's not going to feel as good, and you're not going to feel as safe with like a skier setup. Like a quick release skier setup. The solid through axles are probably one of the best innovations in mountain biking, period. But you would have to buy a new frame for that. A fork can be easily bought. Frame depends on what you're trying to get. Now, if I'm going to say, I would suggest just going with the baseline of what you want. So let's do it for instance. I want an enduro bike, right? So let's say you want a Trek. I don't necessarily want a Trek. They're nice, don't get me wrong. But let me share the screen with you real quick. Let me get to where you're going. Mountain. They have enduro as a selection. Here we go. Yeah, right here. So what I want you to do, this is just a for instance. You don't have to follow this by any means. Any means whatsoever. This is Trek's website. These are super high-end mountain bikes right here. These top 3. Right? This is for pros who have, you know, the time and the maintenance, who dedicate their lives to this. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more nonchalant that you want to boost up over the years, you can always get a frame. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't, but if you need a whole bike, go with, what's the current generation of Slash that isn't the C, this crazy frame right here. What is this? Slash 8 slash Gen 9.8. That would be, or Gen 5. Gen 5 would be good. Not Gen 6. So Gen 5, unless they have a Gen 6 regular frame, which I don't see one. Now, if I was going to buy a Trek today, it would probably be this one. In all honesty, if I was going to buy a full complete bike, this one. This is what they have. It's a normal, well, they probably don't have as many sizes as they should, but it's a normal everyday bike. Your average enduro bike. It's got nothing crazy going on, easy to maintain, things like that, right? It's got enough suspension, so if you want to start doing stuff that's a little bit more crazier, that isn't like groomed towards XC or just regular trail bikes, you can do it. But yeah, it's gonna be costly for a few reasons. You get this, you use what's on it already, right? So this comes with this is a carbon frame, so you know I'm not buying it. This comes with a Fox Rhythms 36. And the Fox Float X2. Max compatible fork travel is 180, so you can even boost up the 180 a bit. If it's not already at 180, it's at 160 right now. Or no, 170 right now. Which I would keep it, but depends on what kind of performance you're looking for. It's got a Shimano setup, group set for the Bond trigger stuff. That's their in-market stuff, in-house stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, just you're going to be riding a lot of this stuff till it's like worn out, or you got the money to have an upgrade, right? Like, I don't know anything about the Fox Rhythm Fork. I've never even heard of that. Fox Forks. I'm assuming it's a lower price fork. No, I went ascending. I went the wrong way with that one. Is this it? What was the thing going? The Fox Rhythm Fork? I don't even know if it's a 36, so you gotta look for that. Your Performance Elite. Yeah, I don't even know what that fork is. Weird. Very weird. Model. Let me click 36. Maybe it's something they do for brands. Ah, that was horrible. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't see that fork anywhere on Fox's website, so I'm not saying it's a bad fork. I don't know. To be honest, when I look at the fork, it looks like the AWL ones. So it's not their most high-end fork. It's a very high-end drivetrain, though. Try and get a better picture. Fuck, we already know that. We know what these look like. Try and get a better look at the fork than... Yeah. It just looks like one of the UWL things. But yeah, I suggest buying your kind of bike that you think you need. So if you want a trail, because you just should a trail ride, then do, some jumps, nothing crazy, gnarly or anything, just, or just do some crazy, not too gnarly. I'd probably go with a 140 trail bike, 29er. and build from there. Buy the cheapest one of that model. So, for instance, I think the bike that I was gonna get it was a little bit more pricey, but I'm thinking about going down. Hold on, I got my nose. My nose has been extra stuffy today. So, uh, one of the reasons I'm going down is because of the most recent thing, but also I don't think I need that because the whole point, like I said, is to buy a bike for myself and do the whole thing, right? So I was thinking about doing the Polygon Colossus N9. I'm thinking about doing the N7, and there's a reason for that. There's really nothing much different than the two. And I'll show you the differences side by side. Besides color. It's a stupid difference. I'm not a huge fan of the red bike, but I can always change out the frame later on if I feel the need. But it's a $2,000 enduro bike. Now, you're not getting the best parts, right? You're getting a Zeb fork, and I forget what the rear shock is. Let me look. Yeah, you're getting a RockShox Zeb fork, which isn't bad. They're not bad. I'm not shitting on them. And a RockShox Deluxe X. There's nothing wrong with RockShox, by the way. I don't have a problem with them or anything. So, besides the obvious color differences, I'm going to pull up the screen in a second here. Let me actually pull up the screen. Hit share. Alright, so what we're looking at as far as actual difference isn't very much. My scroll wheel is wearing out. So, components, right? So this is the N7, this is the N9. N9's on the left, N7's on the right. Okay, so obviously there's a bit of a performance difference between RockShox, and Fox, right? Some of that's also personal. Also, the other bike is a trunnion, and I think the N7 is a trunnion, whereas the N9 is a regular. No, it's trunnion as well. They're both trunnion. So they're both trunnion, so that's not a really big deal. Same size shock, same suspension difference. 170. 170? Yeah, 170 suspension for these guys for both front and rear. They're both using Shimano's. One's using Diora, obviously because it's smaller or cheaper. And Sunrace. They're using a mix of them. This one, I think the only mix is the chain, which is the KMC 12-speed chain. The rest is all Shimano. The brake set is code 4s, or code R, 4 pistons. For the N9, for the is Tretro. They're both pretty big rotors. That's a 4 piston. I guess this is a 2 and 1 piston, or is it both 2 piston? I can't tell. Let's roll this up here and look at the bike. Can I see it from a different angle? You know what I hate about everything? Everybody's bad at getting different angles of bikes and bike parts. At least online retailers are. Just saying, guys, pick up your game a little bit. I think they're both 4 piston. All the way around. Let's see. Doesn't say anything about rims. Rims are Entity. Alloy boost hub. Entity hub. I don't know what that means. Alloy hub boost. Doesn't tell me what kind. different tires. One's got the Schwalbe, one's got the V tire. Stem. It doesn't really give me any brand names. It doesn't even say anything with the stem, does it? Where is that at? Yeah, I wonder if the, right here. Contact points. Stem, polygon alloy handlebar. Or that's the handlebars. The handlebars are race face over here. Stem is a polygon. Over here is a race face. C post is a trans X. For the same fucking C post. You're getting one good part, right? And race face effect hand. I mean, let's be honest. There's really not much of a difference between these bikes besides like the current suspension setup. This one's a little bit more fine tunable than this one. That's it. I suggest if you're doing, this is what you should be doing, right? So let's say you have the money for a. Let's go to. Let's check out Giant. I haven't seen Giant prices in a bit. And check them out too. Full suspension, excuse me. We'll just go aluminum because that's what we're sticking with. And we'll do enduro since that's what I'm also doing. And we're going to sort by price low to high. So these guys are going to have more expensive bikes just in general, right? It's one of the big companies. They sell a lot of bikes. These are all aluminum frames. That's what I'm going with because they're cheaper. I suggest you buy this one, right? Do not finance anything. If you could afford it, obviously. Like if you're gonna go buy a Giant, you're like I want to get a Giant. And there's a reason. So yeah, this fork isn't very great from what I can tell. It looks like a Fox Shocks regular old everyday Lycra. Is that what it is? That's what it looks like. And a regular old everyday Fox Shock rear shock. That's what it looks like. Hide that, you fucking idiot. Alright, let's see. So let's gonna have oh, it's a Yari fork. Yari, not horrible, not great. It's custom tuned for Giant, which is nice. It's custom tuned for your bike. Menster, I don't know what that is. It the Shock? I've never heard of that brand. No, here it is. Rock. That's just the way they made it. Okay. Rock Shock Deluxe. Select Plus. Not a bad thing. Handlebars. Most of this stuff's gonna be Giant. Tires aren't the worst or the greatest. Depends on what you're doing. They're good for all around use though, so I'll give them that. They chose a decent tire for all around use. And they got nothing but Shimano stuff on their bike. So, and the rims are Giant. The hubs are Giant, I'm assuming. Or something similar. Spokes, they put a company name. So, and it's not the greatest hubs. You probably want sealed cartridge hubs for better maintenance. So when you do get pick wheels, you gotta be selective. Same with everything else right now. Like, the way you gotta do things, probably from now into the future, no matter how much money you have, is be very, very selective with what you buy. Especially if it's for a hobby. And you also need to be selective about when you buy it. So, right now would be a great time. What's up? Yeah, I mountain bike Sonic VR. I've been mountain biking since I was in like middle school. Like actually mountain biking, yes. Not riding a bike that is made for mountain biking and riding it on, easy trails. I have videos on my channel, actually, my YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. There's some there. I'm gonna be posting more in recent, but I need to work on that. No, I do not have Halo MMC installed. I haven't played Halo in a long time. The reason is because I was like, once I played Infinite, I was like, I'm good. I'm done. Halo overall. So, I mean, this isn't a bad bike for the price, especially if it's in your size. They're probably gonna be getting rid of a lot of shit like this. So pick and choose wisely. You can get a pretty good bike for pretty cheap right now, which is a positive. But you can also get a really good bike for pretty fucking cheap too. Like you can buy it off of Facebook Marketplace or whatever. But yeah, if you want something substantial as far as mountain biking, you need to go to do your research. Best bet is don't go with the e-bike. Anything battery powered right now is probably going to go through the roof. Same with, gasoline powered stuff is already through the roof. Because for some reason, car dealerships act like we should pay them $2,000 over MS or $20,000 over MSP because they housed the car and we bought it from them. Meanwhile, a lot of the money they get is on the back end from the financing, not from the actual sale. So, actually, this is kind of how like bikes were too. By the way, we need to stop doing that as a whole because like the way bikes worked, obviously you could go buy a bike. It's a lot easier to get $2,000 together. $20,000 together, but and I'd go and buy like a new cheap, not expensive car. You know what I mean? Just something basic. But that's the way they kind of minus the financing side, which some places do, including Giant. Uh, bike shops were kind of ran like dealerships, and it's probably one of the worst things you could have ever did. Wish my nose would come unstuffy. That'd be great. But bike shops were run kind of like dealerships, so like you sign a contract with the bike shop, and or with a bike company. It's pretty much a showroom for a bike company. So smaller bike shops do this to have inventory of bikes, right? And I understand because it's expensive to buy. I don't know. Let's say you need. Let's just say because you're also a show off model for these people. So for these other companies, if I was a bike shop, it would suck to say this, but I probably wouldn't have bikes in the shop. I'd have a couple, but not like a shit ton unless they were used. And the reason I say that is because I'd have like one of like, their mid range enduro, their mid range cross country, their mid range for mountain bikes, for road bikes, same thing. Midway for triathlete, midway for whatever, just do the midway. Have one bike sitting up, talk to them about other bikes that they could possibly order from us, things like that. Um, but really, the direct to consumer method's probably going to be the biggest one from now on. So bike shops are kind of fucked there unless they have a lot of money to put in for bikes and are willing to sell bikes cheaper than they bought it for. You know what I mean? Unless there's a way they can get it for factory cost, like how much it costs for Giant to get them made, or something of that nature. There's no way that bike shops besides maintenance are going to survive. We had a bike shop here for a long time. Actually, it wasn't until, was it 2002? It closed down. And I think most of it was the way they had what was the bike brand did they have? Was it BMC or something like that? It was a bike brand I never really, like I've heard of them before, but I never really paid attention to. And it might be like was it BMC bike? Let's look that up. I mean, it's going to the road bike section, but yeah. Like I'm not saying this brand's bad because I don't know fucking anything about them. But another problem is with bike shops, you have to cater to everybody, right? So like you have to cater to road, gravel, mountain, lifestyle, track. Um, if there's tracks near you, I wouldn't do it if there wasn't any tracks near me. I would cater to the person in the sense that I would be like, hey, we can get you that bike in if you want us to do that way. Um, but like just for mountain, you got cross country, and are they only doing cross country bikes, or do they do trail bikes? That's even crazier if they're only selling cross country bikes. That's fucking insane. Like straight up, that's fucking crazy talk, is what that is. I'm just gonna look at the bike. I'm not obviously I wouldn't buy this. What's the specs? Yeah, it's all based around one sport in mountain bike. That's crazy. I don't even know how. Gravel. Gravel is a lot more, uh, getting a lot more popular now. Uh, and lifestyle is just like urban and active bikes. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, if you want a whole gambit of bikes, you're gonna have to rely on used stuff and like used frames and things like that, or used whole bikes and stuff like that. You're not gonna be able to rely on buying companies like new bikes. Now you could order it for the people, sure. Maybe have a deal with a company that says, hey, if we order a bike from you, we want this much on the back end. So y'all can come to agreement on the MSRP. So for instance, this bike's 4,500. You want them to knock that price down a little bit so the bike shop can get the money as well to the bike shop. So let's say you sell it for that much. It doesn't cost them $4,000 to make this, by the way. Um, Especially if it's an aluminum bike. Aluminum's cheap as fuck. Um, and one of the other biggest problems about this is that people don't understand the price of bikes. You all complain about the price of bikes going up, or the price of anything really. But the reality is, the price of things wouldn't be going up if we actually made the shit here. All this stuff is made in different countries. Nobody in America makes this shit. And if they do, it's exorbitantly costly because it's like two dudes in a shop. Which is understandable why it's so expensive, because it's only two dudes who probably have no bike sales, because guys like Giant, guys like Trek, or companies like Trek, companies like Polygon, things like that. All the really the big companies, Giant, Trek, Fox, RockShox, SRAM, Shimano, they're the ones who rule the roost. Um, then you got your bigger companies, but they're not as big as Giant and stuff because they don't make all kinds of bikes. They focus on the best they can make for actual athletes. Whereas Giant, if you go on Giant's website, you can buy an overly priced kids bike that the kid is not going to fit in like a year. And uh is this loading? No, it's not. But I clicked it. We'll do 2 to 6. Let's do 5 to 9. Right? What are these? 18 to 20 inch bikes. 400 fucking dollars for a regular ass uh bike. I mean, there's quite literally nothing special about these. Um, I mean, they're bolt-on wheels. There's not through axles, which is fine at their weight. The cranks look like they're tapered. Again, fine because of their weights. Um, I mean, as far as like how not disc brakes, regular rim brakes. I mean, there's nothing special about these bikes to charge $500 for them. almost $500, almost it's 425. Like what? Why is this a thing, right? Um, it's kind of crazy to look at, you know. And these are just no shocks, nothing. Now this one costs this shouldn't be costing $600 to $700. You're talking about people who have no weight to them. Um, disc brakes cool. I can't tell if those are through axles or not. No, they're quick release axles with, I'm assuming it's a 7 speed. Micro shift, that's cheap as fuck for the shifter. I don't see what speed it is. From what I can tell, it looks like a 7. Could be an 8. Could be. Looks like a freewheel base system. Tapered. None of this is the shitty fork that's on it. I don't know who makes that. Who makes that fork? Might not be that bad. I'm just saying it is because I'm so used to seeing. SR Suntour's alright, I guess. But it's a coil with lockout. So it's got lockout. It's a coil, which is. Can you preset anything besides. No, I think you can only preset, what do you call it? The, spring tension. To set up for your sag. That's about it. So, like, these cost six, like, it doesn't cost them this much to make this. This is a basic bike geometry, right? With an OK fork that's good to start out with. A 7 by system with tapered. There's, I mean, it's literally just like a 400. It's like at most a $350 bike. They're selling it for 6, almost 7. I mean, if you were to buy a frame, you could do a cheaper bike build that's actually good. Like you could spend the money where you need it and not spend it where you don't need it. Like for instance, if you're just getting into mountain biking and you buy a full suspension frame with nothing, not even with a shock, your best bet is to buy like, you know, the shock that fits your bike, but a beginner shock, something that doesn't cost a shit ton of money, right? It's still going to cost you a lot of money because a lot of these companies overblow their prices, and they're really overblowing now because they're kind of all in financial straits. And that's on them. That's 110% on them. And the reason it's on them is because they're silly. They're dumb. They don't listen to consumers. They're worried about carbon fiber and all this other bullshit. Let me tell you something. Mountain bike guys, look, I'm glad you bought your carbon fiber bike. I'm not shitting on you for it at all. If you wanted a carbon fiber bike, get a carbon fiber bike. But here's the thing, right? There are companies who pretty much moved away from aluminum completely and went to carbon fiber because of this carbon fiber craze. The average person is not going to be able to tell the difference between carbon fiber and aluminum. The only thing that might make a huge difference is the weight when they're picking it up and putting it on their bike rack. That's the only time it's ever going to be a real difference for most people. And aluminum bikes don't weigh anything. Like my bike, as heavy as it is, it doesn't weigh shit. Grab a steel bike up for once and tell me, and come with the same size tubing, similar size tubing, things like that. And you're going to be like, fuck, dude, how do people do this? Well, really, the only time you really have to worry about weight is long distance. So, most people aren't riding cross-country distances. Most people aren't riding in actual enduros. Most people aren't riding, 30 to 50 miles a day, unless they happen to be a courier, and at that point they probably live in the city and they're probably using a road bike because they're the fastest, most efficient way to do it. This is part of their job, not their leisure. You could do it with a mountain bike. Not saying you can't. Not saying you can't. But you might want to throw some road gearing on that shit. Um, the reality is that we're at a point in mountain biking to where we're kind of fucked because the companies did stupid shit, and I mean it'll help a little bit. There might be some new companies that prop up out of this uh, later on down the road, but with the way things are looking, it doesn't even seem like that's going to be a thing in anytime soon. Maybe when I'm old and decrepit and can't ride anymore, but the future of mountain biking, the near future of mountain biking is looking pretty bleak as far as the companies. Now the riders can ride, man. They can do whatever they want as long as they got a bike that works, parts that they can replace them with if they have to, or shops that will do that for them. They're good to go. The big problem we have now is shops too, going out of business. Trek bought a whole bunch of shops, especially around here recently. We had a smaller company called Race Pace Bikes. I think they had 4 shops. Trek now owns them all. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I will say this, every Trek store I've ever been into, they push Trek stuff, which makes sense, right? Here's the problem with that. If you don't have a Trek, what the fuck's the point in you going there? You know, they push some other stuff, like they'll push like Maxxis, tires, small things like that, something that you buy every once in a while that are repairable, like, you know, they're not selling, like random brakes. You know what I mean? Like not whatever they use on their current models. You know what I mean? They're not going to be selling a lot of stuff that most bike shops should be selling. There should be more variety at bike shops. Now Trek isn't too bad with this because I've seen other bikes in there too. But the worst is even before that the bike shops were kind of like this because of the way they had to do the bike shop thing. It's like a dealership deal between the company and the bike shop, which is not a good deal for them because people need cars. People don't necessarily need bikes in America, right? Some places would do better with a lot more bikes, don't get me wrong, but they don't need them because usually those places are also called cities, which has public transportation. Also, it depends on where you live and how good the weather is. If you live in somewhere like LA, where the weather's pretty good most of the time, and you can ride all day, right? But you can commute to work almost every day on a bike if you want. Um, but in places like everywhere else, you aren't doing that. So unless it's part of your job, like a courier in a city, like in New York, you're not going to be commuting all the time. I mean, people do it. People do it, but usually they're not buying high end bikes. Yeah, they buy higher end than the average person, but they're not going to buy it like And if you do, you're crazy for this. They're going to buy a $3,000 road bike or a $5,000 road bike. They're going to be buying their normal urban commute bikes and things like that. They don't need anything crazy. They don't need anything super efficient. They just need to be efficient enough to get to get them to work. That's a big problem in gaming too right now. Things are going to get more expensive in gaming. I have a feeling we're going to have another crash. Well, we've already had the crash in gaming. Most games are selling like shit because most games suck now. In comparison to the past, the past 10 years, games are selling like shit compared to the games from the 10 years prior. There's a reason for that. The market's kind of saturated now, so you're going to see a dip in sales. With all kinds of games, but the consoles and hardware are pretty saturated. Like, you're not going to see a new hardware company come out of left field, right? Um, there is a threat to this in cloud gaming. I don't think cloud gaming will ever actually work. And the reason is because of latency. No offense, but depending on the internet and a server far away to play your game is a good idea. Considering the fact that you could host a bunch of games on pretty nice servers and have the game stream at 4K to your device of choice. But the reality is that it's not worth the lag. I mean, you see lag all the time. Wired and wireless controllers. They're in proximity to each other. I've seen the lag between wireless and wired. It's not much, but it's enough to notice if you're actually looking. But another big problem we're having in gaming is that not only are we not coming up with new IPs that are actually good, we're also not coming up with. We're also ruining old IPs at the same time. They're remaking Halo for what? For what? To ruin it some more? I mean, Halo Infinite was a wash. That shit was done day one. It's not good. Um, Halo 5 was okay. 4 was okay. As far as the actual gameplay. 5's problem is the story. 4's problem was no competitive. And Infinite's problem is that it just sucks. It's just a bad game. Um, there's a lot of games that are falling into this. Pokemon's getting worse over time. Uh, Mostly on how games run and the absence of a national dex. That's a big thing. And yes, I've been saying that since Gen 7, so shut the fuck up. Another big problem is that they are limited by hardware because they're running on Nintendo only because Nintendo owns part of the Pokemon company. So that's a problem. I'm not saying it's a big problem. Who knows? The Switch 2 could turn the way I look at Pokemon and all that around. I mean, if Gen 10 fixing Pokemon would be very easy, but no one wants to sit here and actually do it. Gen 10 could be their last games for the next decade. And I'll tell you why. One, they make Gen 10, right? In the vein that they made Scarlet and Violet. So it's an open world, Pokemon spawn, you can see the shinies, all that stuff, all the benefits of the current Pokemon. They make Gen 10 exactly like that. But instead of having random DLCs, like Blueberry Academy, Isle of Armor, Crown Tundra, shit like that, what they should do is release a patch generation every year for the next 10 years for the price of a game. And the reason I say that is because they would be making a whole game again. Right? They wouldn't be making a whole game, maybe a little bit cheaper, maybe like $40 per DLC per year. Right? Maybe 50. Drop $10. Who cares, right? They're gonna make a butt ton of money off of this. They've already figured out their model has kind of lost because they've been adding internet on it forever, and it's only been getting better and better over time. The current trading system kind of sucks still. What they should probably do is host lobbies where you can talk to people and try to do that, but that's a whole problem in itself. They don't really have to worry about that. They could simply make a better version of Scarlet and Violet in Gen 10 and release every generation starting. They could either go backwards and do 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or they could go forward. And they should be adding all of the stupid battle gimmicks, including Mega Evolution, Z moves, Gigantamaxing / Dynamaxing, and Terrestrialization / Stellar Terra types. all within the game. But they would have to change the mechanic to how terrestrialization works when they got the Gen 9. And that's if they don't add another mechanic in Gen 10. If you're going to replace the gimmick mechanic battle mechanics in Gen 10, either ditch it or make a new one and keep those mechanics across all the Pokemon. Bring them up to other Pokemon, things like that. So, for instance, obviously things like Pikachu EMZ isn't going to work. Or Mega Evolution, which is specifically for specific Pokemon. But Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing works for every Pokemon. You should have that scale in there. As well as Terrestrialization scale, which also works for every Pokemon. I think the reason they chose those two last time, or the last two games, is because it affects all the Pokemon, not just one, right? So, like, not one line, or not just one Pokemon, or whatever, right? So Kangaskhan, for instance, can Mega Evolve. Thus making that a good Pokemon. But it can be countered by Dynamaxing, Terrestrialization. Not really Terrestrialization, that shit sucks. And Z moves. If nobody remembers, Z moves were actually pretty powerful. So that's a battle mechanic I can get behind. With Z moves. Z moves, Mega Evolution. Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing is kind of eh. But I can get behind it because then it gives everybody a specialty. But I think that's I think that's why everybody liked Mega Evolution, was because and Z moves, especially Z moves, because there was one for every type of Pokemon, right? Like, so you could use it for any type. Like, if you had a Rock Pokemon, you could use the Rock move. If you had the what was the other one? They had one for each type, so you could just use that move, which kind of fixed that problem with Giant Mega Evolution. They also added specific ones like Pikachuisms, or Pikachu Z, or whatever the fuck it was. Pikachu, the Z move for Pikachu. There was one for Snorlax. I think there was one for Charizard too. I'm not sure. I have to look them all up. But the biggest problem is that Pokemon could easily fix all their problems in one good way. Make Scarlet and Violet, make another generation, add whatever Pokemon. The next year, instead of releasing a DLC for the said game, like a regular one, like Isle of Armor or Indigo Disc or whatever they released for Switch games, release the next generation, or the last generation, or the generation before that. So just keep going online for 10 years. You don't even have to make a new game. For 10 years, you don't have to make a new game. Just make it available on whatever whatever Nintendo console is available at the time. That would be the easiest way to fix that company. You could literally just, for 10 years, work on one game. And you could have people perfecting different parts of that game in the background while you're producing the next gen, right? So, like, for instance, Gen 10, you release it, you start perfecting it with updates and stuff over time. That way it gets better. By the time Gen 9 comes out, you've already got the mechanics and all that perfected, so you just release the Pokemon. And that's what they should really do. Or release the region. And you go there. You go to the region, right? You go to the region, you add that's where you implement the national dex, is when you add another region, right? And you fill out that Pokedex, and, it would just be so much easier. But no, they'd rather have one game that is similar to that, which is Pokemon Go, but it sucks. Right? Pokemon Go sucks. Let's be honest. Okay, it's really bad now. It used to be alright, right? Like, you could pay to get a little bit of a bump up and, do raids and such like that. Do more raids, things like that. But now it's just bad, dude. The last event that we did, which was Go Fest this summer, was fucking bad. They nickel and dime you for every, thing. I bought the main thing, But the ticket, but I didn't buy any of the correlating things for that, and it was how much was it? I forget how much it was, but it wasn't enough. It was too much for what you got out of it. Like, oh, you get to play in Pokemon Go Fest and do things and all that jazz, and like, yeah, but like, you're not really giving me anything for it besides the access to the global event. That's all they gave us, pretty much, and whatever tree line for that was better for the mythical or whatever the fuck they put out that year. I don't know, man. It's pretty bad all the way around with Pokemon, and it's gonna get worse. Same thing with all the other games, though. Halo sucks. Uh, Forza sucks. Call of Duty, I can't stand anymore. I haven't been able to stand that shit since Ghost. I haven't really played Counter Strike, the new one, so I'm not too worried about it. It's probably good, and it's just a competitive shooter. It's not even really like a thing. Elder Scrolls doesn't put out anything new besides stuff on their deals on their MMO, which isn't even really Bethesda. Which isn't really Bethesda, it's ZeniMax Studios. And sports games, they've always been pretty shit since there's no competition for them. There really isn't, and it's kind of sad. It's just EA, essentially, and I don't know the studio that does the show. MLB's a show, but whoever does that, they do a really good job on that. But I don't think anything's going anywhere with them. Racing sims and racing stuff isn't getting better. And all that shit. Gaming's been dying slowly, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing like a short live stream tonight, just talking and bullshitting about stuff. Because I kind of don't know what to do. Uh, I kind of don't know what to do. Like I want to play other games, but I'm not sure what I want to play. I gotta sit on it for a bit for the next tonight and tomorrow. I don't want to keep just diving back into Pokemon games where I've already completed the Pokedex, grinding that out, and going back and just doing endgame stuff. It's fun to do, don't get me wrong, but it's not very fun to watch, I'm sure. Maybe I'll look up some of the endgame stuff you can do and like different stuff that people haven't really done all that much of. Um, for Scarlet Violet, Sword and Shield, and Arceus Legends. But right now, the only thing I really have is completing the Pokedex and Arceus Legends. Um, Completing the max layer raids, completing random raids, and finishing BP stuff on Scarlet and Violet. Doing the shiny hunting thing on Scarlet and Violet when they have the new shiny hunting uh, mass outbreaks that are going out. Um, I mean, that's really all I got right now for just Pokemon. I could play Pearl, but that's just another play through of Diamond with Palkia and not the Distortion World, which makes me sad. They fucked that up big time, by the way. Um, yeah, it's getting pretty rough. You know what I mean? It's getting pretty rough in gaming. It's gonna get pretty rough for everybody here soon and everywhere. Things aren't gonna get better. They're only gonna get worse for the foreseeable future. And I know it sounds like a bad thing to say, but it's not. It's not a bad thing to say. It's just a reality. Could we turn it around or at least lessen the blow a little bit? Sure. I'm not saying that isn't the case. But the reality is it's been really hard to just sit here and wonder what's going on and how to figure out how to make things better in general. And they're making it harder for you to make things better. So it is what it is, though. Um, Get your stuff ready, get your stuff in order, get ready to spend a lot of time doing a lot of nothing. You know what I'm saying? What? Anyways, there's just a lot of stuff that needs to be set in. Uh, get your hobbies together, get it set. We should be having a little bit more fun in general, so just do that. And gaming as a whole is getting pretty shit. Mountain biking's, as far as companies, is getting pretty shit. But I think mountain biking itself will just become better because of it. Gaming, on the other hand, the companies are just producing shit. It's not gonna get any better. It's like really bad now. And there's a reason why a lot of games are failing and stuff. People say it's because of the woke stuff or whatever. Nah, they're just shit games, bro. Most of the games put out today. Look, I'll tell you the last game that I was hoping for to be really good, which was Tom Clancy's The Division. I was hoping that would be a really good game. And it was alright. I played it for like a retarded amount of time. But it wasn't something that had a lot of staying power. Uh, One, because of the way it's set up. It's like a shitty version of an MMO. Um, that really you can't really do much with as far as like customer care or character customization and things like that, and like have niche roles filled and things like that. It's a shitty version of MMO. That's really what it is. So, um, and MMOs are not perfect either. Don't get me wrong, but there could be better MMOs. Like for instance, your level shouldn't hinder your craftsmanship. You should be able to stat all your craftsmanship. Period. Like that's just it's just silly. Now there is a market and stuff inside of MMOs that are similar to that, right? But dedicating your life to essentially dedicating a character to be the best logger that you can be, or the best fisherman, or provisioning, the best resource making, gathering, the best steel worker, metal worker, or clothier isn't the best idea, but it could be worse. It could be fucking worse. But I think I'm gonna call it a night and get ready for bed because I do want to go mountain biking tomorrow, and hopefully I will go mountain biking tomorrow and have a lot of fun. It's snowy out, so it should be an adventure. I'll probably try to record, try and get that set up in a moment. So I will see you all later, and thanks for stopping by to the stream to talk and bullshit. Peace out.